Hello everyone, my name is Randy Reed. I go to the 11:11 service. Actually, I'm the lay leader of the 11:11 service. I'm on a few committees, and right now I just wanted to share a couple of stories with you. The first one happened several years ago, but I was having something really bothering me at work, and it was really gnawing at me to the point where it actually was interfering with my work. I knew what was wrong, I knew what I had to do, but I had to do my job first. So when work was over, I got out into my truck, and before I even started it, before I even put the seatbelt on or anything, I just prayed. Because I was having issues of just letting go and trusting in God. And I knew that's what was bothering me all day at work. So I prayed, put it in His hands. I didn't feel like anything really happened at that point, but I felt good knowing that I prayed. So at that point, I went ahead and got ready to leave, started the truck and headed on down the road. And about a mile from my house is a church that has a sign. Like other churches, they have clever sayings or maybe scripture on their sign. But this particular sign said, "Simply trust the Lord." I swerved over back into my lane after reading that sign and thought, oh wow, I mean, come on, I just prayed this. This is for real, isn't it? And I kind of held that to myself for a while. I didn't know what to think about the fact that that sign had that saying on it. But a day or so later, I had to take my children to a music lesson. And the lessons were 30 minutes each, so I had an hour that I didn't know what to do with. And I was in an end of town that I wasn't familiar with really. I really didn't travel up into that end of town very often. But I knew there was a plaza or a strip mall, however you want to say it, down the street. So I thought I would just head down that way and just try to find something to do for an hour. So I went into this store, never been in the store before, and I was directed to this one area of the store right off the bat as soon as I walked in. I mean, I had no control over it. I saw this area and my eyes glued on it and I walked right for it. What it was simply was bookmarks. It was just the way it was set up and all the colors and everything, and all the bookmarks had names on them, and you were supposed to look up your name, and then there was a Bible verse for you to look up later. So of course I got to find this out, so I went down there and I found the verse, and it was Isaiah 41:10. And I just could not wait to get home and find out what that verse said. So I got my Bible out. I read from the New International Version. And Isaiah 41:10 reads, "So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you, and I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." And I thought, okay. I walked out and just started, thinking about all this. I saw the sign that said, "Simply trust the Lord," right after I had prayed that I had trust issues. This verse says that He's going to be there to help me. I thought, what else is going to happen, right? Well, we had Sunday evening service later on in that week, and they had special music. And a gentleman came up, said he was going to do this number, but before he started, he had a confession that he wanted to make. He said, "I haven't been trusting the Lord like I should here lately." And I about slid off the pew when he said that. But I tried to think of why those three things happened to me after I prayed. And it became obvious to me that the sign said, just do it. Just simply trust the Lord. The Bible verse said he would be there to help me and get me through it. And then by the gentleman that came up to confess that he had trouble also showed me that I'm not alone, that other people have to deal with this. And that has stuck with me ever since that happened. And I try to constantly remind myself of that and to help others with that too if they have trust issues as well. The second story is about an answer to prayer. I had been fairly new to Duber Church. I had accepted Christ at an early age, but I really didn't have a relationship with God through the years of my adolescence and growing up. I didn't have any discipling or anything. But when I got to Duber Church and I saw how people were different than how I grew up, and I started joining in Sunday school and small groups and different things, and I was really learning a lot from other people. And one of them was to pray for a situation that you have in your life. Pray for what you think you need and see if that's what God's will is for your life. Well, last fall I had gotten a seasonal Christmas job that I needed a vehicle for. I could not leave the house with my wife not having a vehicle, and the only other vehicle we had was a 28-year-old truck that I really didn't want to depend on it, because plus it was a gas hog. So I just prayed. I said, I need to figure this out. We need a better vehicle or another vehicle or something for me to do this job. This job was a 64-mile round trip. Every day that I went to work, I needed to depend on a vehicle. It wasn't but a few days later till I got a phone call from someone that I don't normally talk to, but I know them from Duber Church. Hey, I hear that you're in the need of a vehicle. I found one if you're interested. And I said, oh, really? Yeah. There was a mechanic down the street from him that had this car that he was doing minor engine work on. He had it disassembled. All he had to do was finish putting it back together, and it would be available for sale. So I talked to the gentleman, and we determined that what needed to be done, and he would get to it as soon as he could because he was backed up. But before I even needed the car, before I started my job, before he got to it, I found out that I needed a vehicle a week earlier than what I had normally thought, originally thought. So I went back and talked to the man and explained to him I needed this car earlier. Is there any way he could get it done? He said, I'll try my best. Well, days turned into weeks, and pretty soon it was time that I needed this vehicle. And I talked to him one more time. It was right in front of a garage door that all he had to do was pull it in and finish it. But he had a lot of stuff that he had accumulated in the garage that had to be moved before he could even push this car in to work on it. And I said, I need this car in a couple of weeks if there's any way you could do it. So it got down to the last week. And I knew this was my car because I prayed about it and I got an answer. But the car wasn't finished yet. So I thought to myself, I guess I'm just going to have to drive this old truck and hope that it gets me down there and back until this gentleman finishes work on this car. Now it's 2 days away from me starting my job. And I drove by and that car was still sitting in front of the garage door, hasn't been touched. It was a Wednesday evening and our phone rang. It was my wife's aunt, and her uncle had passed away the previous March, and we were visiting her in June. Well, fast forward, this was November that I needed this vehicle, and her aunt said, "Do you remember our discussion back in June about my extra vehicle? I was going to sell it to my cleaning lady." She said, "Well, if you still need it, her husband bought her a car, and she doesn't need it anymore." And she says, "You're welcome to have this car." And we, what? So that was a Wednesday. I needed the car Friday. Thursday, we were able to go down, get the car, get all the title stuff, everything all taken care of, get it back home, and I drove that car to work Friday. I had an answer to prayer. It was just a different answer than what I thought it was. So I encourage you all to, whatever your situation is, don't ever give up. Don't ever try to handle it yourself. You have to try to remember to give it to God and let Him help you work it out. And I hope this helps any of you that have a similar situation like I have. Thank you very much.